Well, we need to know a couple of things. Number one, we need to know how the world's premier law enforcement agency managed to lose 5 months worth of text. And what's also troubling is in the text we do have, they're discussing how to avoid text being captured and secured. So what's missing is important, but also what's there is important. It is manifest bias, not just against Trump, but against his kids, against his business interests. There's a text where they hope the Trump hotel fails. That is a level of bias that you rarely see and you never see from law enforcement officers. What's also troubling to me is this text that Johnny Ratcliffe found last night about this secret society. Now, I have no clue what that means because that was not the phraseology I used, but it's the day after the election. And it's the same two people that were discussing a little bit later in the text the damage they had done with the Clinton investigation and how they could, quote, fix it and make it right.
What's out there? Today is Thursday, April 19th, 2018. I'm Papa Bear, and this is What's Out There. Oh boy, a lot of stuff out there. Where do I start? Three-letter agencies. Everything has gone awry. It's all coming apart. News. You don't know what to believe in the news anymore. And, of course, Syria. What's going on in Syria. But I'm not sure how to lead into this, but I'm going to take it this way. We'll start here. On December 29th, 2012, President Barack Obama signed H.R. 4310, and that's the 2013 National Defense Authorization Act. Section 1078 of the bill authorizes the use of propaganda inside the U.S., which had been previously banned since 1948 when the Smith-Mundt Act was passed. So now you know that the use of propaganda is legal or is being used as a tool for war for the most part, okay? And to give you an idea of what's going on, who was it? Roger Waters. Roger Waters decided he's doing a concert, and I say what you like to about, I'm going to use three people to give you an understanding of what's going on here today, okay, with the government and so on, all right. Roger Waters is the front man for Pink Floyd. He stopped his concert this week in Barcelona to address the crowd about propaganda being spread about what's happening in Syria. He pointed out that the White Helmets are an organization that exists for the purpose of propaganda. Collective Evolution reported on the corrupt nature of the White Helmets in 2017, and we're seeing it now again. The White Helmets have been caught staging events to create propaganda for media. During Waters' concert, a man named Pascal was set to come on the stage and provide information to the crowd about what was going on in Syria. Waters instead chose to address the crowd himself to save the audience from the propaganda that would have come from Pascal about the White Helmets. So on the stage, Waters said, White Helmets is a fake organization that exists only to create propaganda for jihadists and terrorists. That's my belief. We have opposing beliefs. If we were to listen to the propaganda of the White Helmets and others, we would be encouraged to encourage our governments to start dropping bombs on people in Syria. This would be a mistake of monumental proportions for us as human beings. What we should do is go and persuade our governments not to go and drop bombs on people, and certainly not until we've done all the research that's necessary so we'd have a clear idea of what's really going on. Because we live in a world where propaganda seems to be more important than the reality of what's really going on. He said, the only response to BDS is that it is anti-Semitic. I know this because I've been accused of being a Nazi and an anti-Semite for the past 10 years. My industry has been particularly recalcitrant in even raising a voice against Israel. There's me, Elvis Costello, Brian Eno, Manic Street Preachers, one or two others, but there's nobody in the United States where I live. I've talked to a lot of them, and they are scared shitless, Waters said. If they say something in public, they will no longer have a career. They will be destroyed. I'm hoping to encourage some of them to stop being frightened and to stand up and be counted, because we need them. We need them desperately in this conversation, in the same way we need musicians, or we needed musicians, to join protesters over Vietnam. And he's right. You've got rappers out here, different musicians that are doing their own thing, and they're not passing any message that's of any value. We need to put out more valuable messages, something that will make an impact. And as far as what's going on in Syria goes, Syrian news. I pulled this up earlier, and I recorded it just for you, just so you could understand. This comes from One American News. There was a man who was feet on the ground, and he did this report, and I'm going to let you hear it.
We went to Duma today. We got exclusive access, and we were brought into the town of Duma, where the alleged chemical attack happened. We were brought in with a government escort and shown the areas where the chemical attack allegedly happened, and we got to speak with residents in the area, and we were even able to visit the hospital where the white helmets showed the video of the people being hosed down. So when I went into the town, we didn't really know what to expect, but we were brought to one of the neighborhoods close to where the attack happened. I spoke with a number of residents there, probably about 10 residents in that neighborhood, and this is, keep in mind, this is about a block and a half away from where the attack was supposedly happened. Not one of the people that I spoke to in that neighborhood said that they had seen anything or heard anything about a chemical attack on that day. They said that they were going about their normal business. Everything was pretty much business as usual in the neighborhood that day, and they didn't see or hear anything out of the ordinary. So we wanted to make sure that we covered all our bases, so we drove down a little further, and we visited some rebel headquarters from Jaish al-Islam, the terror group that was holding the town until recently. And I got to go down and I explored some of the tunnels in the area. I walked through some rooms where they were making weapons, weapon manufacturing. There were entire rooms filled with mortars, and they were stacked from floor to ceiling. It was just, it's very shocking to see how much weaponry the terrorists had piled up in that area. After that, we went through the square where a convoy, I'm not sure who the convoy was from, but it looked like it was a Syrian relief convoy, and they had just lines of residents turning out, maybe 1,000 people long. It was a really long line, turning out for bread and supplies, water, food, clothing, things like that. And so we talked to a few people there, and I went up to random people. I know there's a lot of concern from people that the residents being interviewed are plants. They're Russian operatives, or they're staged interviews or things like that. And so we just randomly went up to different people. No one came up to us, and interviewed probably about 30 or 40 people throughout the town. And consistently, not one person in the entire town that we talked to said that they had seen or heard anything about a chemical attack. They said that they'd lived there for 15 years, 7 to 15 years, some of them, and so they're longtime residents of the area, and many of them were very close to the site that was allegedly attacked on the day that it was allegedly attacked. One man said that he was within 50 meters at the time they say it was attacked, and he heard and saw nothing out of the ordinary. When I asked them what they thought the chemical attack was, they told me, all of them told me, that it was staged by the rebels who were occupying the town at that time. They said that it was a fabrication, that it was a hoax, and when I asked them why, they told me that it was because the rebels were desperate and they needed a ploy to help get the Syrian army off their back so that they can escape. And so the residents told me, and again, I'm using that phrase a lot, the residents told me, because I want it to be clear that this is not an opinion, this is not propaganda, as some have accused, that this is simply facts that we found on the ground when we were in the town, things that we saw firsthand. So the residents told me that the terrorists staged this attack to get to get the Western powers to attack the Syrian army and get them off their backs so that they could escape. And that story was told to us by numerous people. So I asked them also what they thought about President Bashar al-Assad, because that's also a big question for a lot of people. I mean, you hear people like Boris Johnson and other leaders saying that President Bashar is terrorizing his people and that he's being very brutal to them. And again, this is just repeating facts that are out there in the media right now. And so when I talked to the people who lived in these towns, they specifically said that they loved Bashar al-Assad. They thought that he was great, and they said that I asked them how they felt about the moderate rebels that they were living under, and they said there's no such thing as moderate rebels. They said that the people that they were living under were starving them to death. One man said that he'd been there for the last 7 years and was being starved to death. His family was starving because the rebels wouldn't give them any food. They said they hoarded the medicine and took everything for themselves. And he said if anybody complained, you were risking your life. They'd kill you. They'd kill you and your family for complaining or raising any problems. He said that he was very grateful that President Assad had liberated the town and that they were completely in support of Assad. After that, we went to Ground Zero, where the attack allegedly happened. It's a big open square with a large monument in the very middle. It's probably about 100 meters in a circle. And it's not clear exactly where the strike happened in that square, but it was that square that the terrorists claimed was hit by the chemicals. And so I walked around it, I looked at everything. There were some mortars that had exploded in the concrete. But nothing looked like a chemical attack. And when I asked the people there were soldiers there, there were military police there. They said they'd been stationed there for a while and they hadn't seen anything that day. They did point out to me that there was a hospital nearby, which is right off the square actually, that had a basement. It was like 2 or 3 stories underground, where there was an emergency field hospital that had been used by the terrorists to treat their wounded. And so we looked around, and one of the buildings in that area, there was several, they're all about 15 stories. One of the buildings in the area had a large bulwark of dirt built up around the edges to apparently protect it from strikes so that people inside wouldn't be hurt. And we walked around, and there was a tunnel carved into the side of that, and you could walk down into it, and that was where they'd built this makeshift hospital. And it was actually very sophisticated. They had a car park, a garage, they had maintenance bays, things like that. And we walked down several floors underground and into the room, the hospital room that you see in all of the videos where the people are being hosed off. And it's still being used right now as a hospital. There's still doctors there taking care of people, but now those doctors are working for the government instead of working for Jaish al-Islam, the terrorists. And so I spoke to one of the doctors. He was a doctor in training right now, and he was on staff, on duty at the time of the attack that day. And I asked him what he saw that day, and he told me that it was a routine day for him. He said it was very dusty that day, and so a lot of people were coming in coughing, just, irritation, throat, and things like that. And normal war injuries, because it was part of a war zone occupied by the terrorists. And they said that there was nothing out of the ordinary, and while they were going about their rounds, suddenly, out of nowhere, they said a bunch of strangers burst into the room screaming that there was a chemical attack. And they started hosing, they brought in allegedly victims, and they started hosing them down with water. And so the doctors, they freaked out, and they grabbed hoses and they started helping and stuff. And the strangers who brought in the victims were videotaping everything. This is all gathered from translations, so I may have missed something. I'm not trying to say this is exactly what happened, but this is what I gathered from what the doctor told me, speaking Arabic through my translator. And they said that they brought in cameras and they were filming everything, and as soon as they had, washed everybody off and stuff, they packed up and they left. And that was the end of it. And the doctors said when the people were there, they didn't see any indication that there was a chemical attack. They said the people's eyes, when you get burned by chemicals, your eyes swell up, they're puffy, you can't breathe, you're coughing. They said the people that came in looked totally normal. And so they didn't see any evidence of a chemical attack. I also talked to the head surgeon of the whole hospital, and he confirmed that. He said that day there were 0 deaths in the hospital. He said he had personally seen no evidence of a chemical attack. He also said that the weapons inspectors, there's 2 conflicting sides to this story. The first doctor said that what he thought were weapons inspectors came in, they toured the hospital, they just walked around and they left. And he said they didn't take any samples, they didn't, test the walls or the hospital beds for any chemicals or anything like that. He said they just walked around, looked at stuff, and left. The head surgeon said that no inspectors had come whatsoever. So I'm not sure which one of those is true, but either way, the inspectors haven't revealed anything that they found, so it could be somewhere in between. In any case, no evidence has been found so far that there was any chemical attack. That's the bottom line from this story. That's not to say that there wasn't one. I don't have definitive proof either way, but going there and looking for any evidence, the dozens of people living there I interviewed, the soldiers working there, the military police, the government officials, the residents, the doctors in the hospitals, no one saw a single shred of evidence of any chemical attack. And I think that's the main point to take away from this.
So that's what you're getting from the Syria news. That's what I'm getting anyway. Be careful of the mainstream media. We know how that goes, right? Because, there is an agenda. Obviously, there's an agenda. And the agenda is so large, to be honest with you, that Homeland Security is going to collect catalog journalists, blogger info to monitor media influencers. People like me, not that I'm a big influence, but the Department of Homeland Security is seeking bids from contractors to create a database that will monitor and collect information on journalists and bloggers the government designates as media influencers. The call for bids first showed up on fedbizops.gov. Now, the Department of Homeland Security says we have nothing to worry about. As a matter of fact, Homeland Security spokesman Todd Holton tweeted on April 6th that anyone who has concerns is merely a tinfoil hat-wearing black helicopter conspiracy theorist, right? The tweet, quote, "Despite what some reporters may suggest, this is nothing more than the standard practice of monitoring current events in the media. Any suggestion otherwise is fit for tinfoil hat-wearing black helicopter conspiracy theorists." Okay, so hey, what could possibly go wrong, right? That's what could possibly go wrong? Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what could possibly go wrong. When Barack Obama was elected into office, a lot of people got chilled, okay? And we got chilled to the point where we actually started talking about it. And then we started asking questions, okay? And the questions we were asking are the questions that Judge Napolitano asked, okay? Here, ask yourself these questions.
Does the government work for us, or do we work for the government? Tonight, what if the Constitution no longer applied? What if the whole purpose of the Constitution was to limit the government? What if Congress's enumerated powers in the Constitution no longer limited Congress, but were actually used as a justification to extend Congress's authority over every realm of human life? What if the president, meant to be an equal to Congress, has instead become a democratically elected, term-limited monarch? What if the president assumed that everything he did was legal just because he's the president? What if he could interrupt your regularly scheduled radio and TV programming for a special message from him? What if he could declare war on his own? What if he could read your emails and your texts without a search warrant? What if he could kill you without warning? What if Supreme Court justices no longer looked to the Constitution to determine the constitutionality of a law, but rather simply to what justices who preceded them thought about it? What if the rights and principles guaranteed in the Constitution have been so distorted in the past 200 years as to be unrecognizable by the founders? What if the 50 states were no longer sovereign entities, equals to each other, and parents of the federal government they voluntarily constituted? What if the states were mere provinces of a totally nationalized and fully centralized government? What if the Constitution was amended stealthily, not by constitutional amendments duly ratified by the states, but by the constant and persistent expansion of the federal government's role in our lives. What if the federal government decided if its own powers were proper and constitutional? What if the Constitution were no longer the supreme law of the land? What if you needed a license from the government to speak, to assemble, or to protest against the government? What if the government didn't like what you planned to say, and so it didn't give you the license? What if the right to keep and bear arms only applied to the government? What if posse comitatus, the federal law that prohibits our military from occupying our streets, were no longer in effect? What if the government considered the military an adequate dispenser of domestic law enforcement? What if cops looked and acted like troops and you couldn't distinguish the military from the police? What if you were not secure in your person, in your papers, and in your property? What if federal agents could write their own search warrants in defiance of the Constitution? What if the government could decide when you were and were not entitled to a jury trial? What if the government could take your property whenever it wanted? What if the government could continue prosecuting you until it got the verdict it wanted? What if the government could force you to testify against yourself simply by labeling you a domestic terrorist? What if the government could torture you until you said what the government wanted to hear? What if people running for president actually supported torture? What if the government tortured your children to get to you? What if government judges and government lawyers intimidated juries into convicting the innocent? What if the government could send you to your death and your innocence meant nothing so long as the government's procedures were followed? What if America's prison population, the largest in the world, was a cruel and unusual way for a country to be free? What if half the prison population never harmed anyone but themselves? What if the people had no rights except those the government chose to let them have? What if the states had no rights except to do as the federal government commanded? What if our elected officials didn't really live among us, but instead all had their hearts and homes in Washington, D.C.? What if the government could strip you of your rights because of where your mother was when you were born? What if the income tax was unconstitutional? What if the states were convinced to give up their representation in Congress? What if the government tried to ban you from using a substance in your body that is older than the government itself? What if voting didn't mean anything anymore because both political parties stand for big government? What if the government could write any law, regulate any behavior, and tax any event? The Constitution be damned. What if the government was the reason we don't have a Constitution anymore? What if you could love your country but hate what the government has done to it? What if sometimes to love your country you had to alter or abolish the government? What if Jefferson was right? What if that government is best which governs least? What if I'm right? What if the government is wrong? What if it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong? What if it is better to perish fighting for freedom than to live as a slave? What if freedom's greatest hour of danger is now?
A lot of questions there, a lot of what ifs. You know, what if we decided that we were going to take our country back, take our freedoms back, take our liberties back? What if we decided that each as individuals, one by one, acting on our own, in our own power, without anybody behind us, just on our own, standing on our own 2 feet, and putting our feet down and just saying, look, this is it. We've had enough. This has gone way too far. You're well past your... Oh, goodness. You know what? This is going to get me a visit again. I got to be careful. Because things, I don't know. On the upside, the tide is turning. Big Pharma billionaire arrested and charged with conspiracy and bribery of doctors. There's a ray of light, I mean, somewhere here, okay? I almost never thought I'd see the day when Big Pharma founder and owner was finally arrested for running a criminal drug cartel, but that day's here. Federal authorities arrested the billionaire founder and owner of Ensys Therapeutics on charges of bribing doctors and pain clinics into prescribing the company's fentanyl product to their patients. Active or addictive drugs that include opioids, we know now, are claiming over 64,000 lives a year in the United States alone. This is from the DCNF. The Department of Justice charged John Kapoor, 74, and 7 other current and former executives at the pharmaceutical company with racketeering for a leading and national conspiracy through bribery and fraud to coerce the illegal distribution of the company's fentanyl spray, which is intended for use as a painkiller by cancer patients. The company's stock prices fell more than 20% following the arrests, according to the New York Post. Kapoor stepped down as the company's CEO in January amid ongoing federal probes into their subsist product, a pain-relieving spray that contains fentanyl, a highly addictive synthetic opioid. Fentanyl is more than 50 times stronger than morphine. Ingesting just 2 milligrams is enough to cause an adult to fatally overdose. Got it? The series of arrests came just hours after President Trump officially declared the country's opioid epidemic a national emergency. Drug overdoses led to 64,070 deaths in 2016, which is more than the amount of American lives lost in the entire Vietnam War. As the opioid crisis had developed, more and more states have begun holding doctors and opioid manufacturers accountable for their overprescribing and overproducing of the highly addictive painkillers. We'll be bringing some major lawsuits against people and companies that are hurting our people, Trump said Thursday. He also spoke about a program similar to Nancy Reagan's Just Say No initiative. More than 20,000 Americans died of synthetic opioid overdoses last year, and millions are addicted to opioids. And yet, some medical professionals would rather take advantage of the addicts than to try to help them. Attorney General Jeff Sessions said in a statement, "This Justice Department will not tolerate this. We will hold accountable anyone, from street dealers to corporate executives, who illegally contributes to the nationwide epidemic. And under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully committed to defeating this threat to the American people." So there you go. This is the first one on the big pharma. I like it. I like it. It's a very good start. And we'll just keep going from there, right? Exactly. And anyway, I'm Papa Bear, and that's what's out there. We'll be right back after these messages.
There are days that the red pill is bitter in my stomach, but I can't get it back out. I think because I have to. I speak because I have no choice. I walk through this dark age we're in with open eyes. Listen to Open Eyes on latenightinthemidlands.com. And together, maybe we won't stumble and fall.
The L&M Radio Network offers a chat room for you, the listener, to connect with others whom are interested in the topics and guests that the L&M Radio Network brings to you. During the live shows, the hosts will even visit the chat room and chat with you, the listener. Click on the big red Chat and Listen button at the top of the website and join us. No subscription is needed at either lnmradionetwork.com or latenightinthemidlands.com.
Why subscribe to Late Night in the Midlands, you ask? Well, I'll tell you why. Late Night in the Midlands covers everything, and through the thousands of expert guests who have joined Michael Vera on his show, come pieces of the big puzzle, which started many years ago. Michael and his guests reveal information dating back to the beginning of time. To this very moment, Michael Vera not only brings you the best guests with the best information, but Michael is not afraid to call out those who are less than honest. You see, in this day and age, we need a radio show we can count on and a radio host we can trust to expose the truth one show at a time. So become a late nighter and subscribe now. Talk radio like no other. Late Night in the Midlands, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
There is a better radio show, beyond that which is known to the people. It is a radio show more informative than others, and as timeless as infinity. It is the equilibrium between light and dark, between the sheeple and the paranormal, and it is heard at the base of man's ignorance and at the summit of his knowledge. This is the radio show of imagination, a show we call The Secret Teachings.
Music by bensound.com or bensound at bensound.com. We are at latenightinthemidlands.com or lnmradionetwork.com, also on TalkStream Live. We're on TuneIn and the Paranormal Radio apps, and we're also at 101.7 FM WCET Columbia Talk. If you like what I do and you'd like to support my work, you can donate to abcleaningmaine@gmail.com by way of PayPal, or you go to what's out there, YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe. Doesn't cost you a penny, okay? And I would be honored to have you as a subscriber. If you want to help the network, go to latenightinthemidlands.com or lnmradionetwork.com and click on that donate button, or you can subscribe and have access to 10 years of archives. We are 100% listener supported. I just want to let you know that. Anyway, we are back at it. My goodness. What's out there is a whole lot of what didn't used to be out there. North and South Korea to officially end war after 65 years, a new report says. Imagine what could ever prompt that to happen, right? North and South Korea are apparently going to agree to bring an end to the decades-long military conflict on the Korean Peninsula, a South Korean newspaper reported on Tuesday. The leaders of North and South Korea, Kim Jong-un and President Moon Jae-in, respectively, are slated to meet next week in advance of the Tri-Nation Summit with President Donald Trump sometime before May. It was reported that the two nations are going to officially put an end to the Korean military conflict, which technically lasted from 1950 to 1953, but was ended with a truce, but not a peace treaty, according to South Korean newspaper. The two nations could also discuss a demilitarized zone that separates them and possibly return it to its original state, the newspaper reported. It was recently announced that North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un agreed to meet at a summit with President Trump, and that North Korea is also willing to talk denuclearization with the Korean Peninsula. While the date and location of the three-way summit have not been announced, the North Korean meeting is set for April 27th. Chinese state media also recently confirmed that Kim traveled and met with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing in an unprecedented first visit outside his home country since becoming supreme leader in 2011. The North Korea-China meeting came ahead of the meeting with South Korea, which is set to prepare for the three-nation meeting with the United States, North and South Korea sometime before May. Trump had accepted an invitation from Kim on behalf of South Korean delegates to the U.S. in March. The White House later confirmed that President Trump and Kim would meet sometime before May on the invitation of Kim himself. The state-run Korean Central News Agency, KCNA, issued commentary about 2 weeks after the initiation and finally handed out a confirmation for the upcoming meeting of North Korea and the U.S. and South Korea. So this is going to be good. A possible meeting between the nations was originally set during the efforts. Was originally the product of South Korea's efforts in February during the Winter Olympics. South Korean President Moon Jae-in first invited North Korea to a summit in April in the DMZ. So it looks like things are going to be changing. The relationship is going to be changing between North and South Korea. That is a good thing. Also, now that we're talking about it, crude oil. Okay, a lot of that stuff in the Middle East, right? Well, it looks like everything's gone upside down. According to Bloomberg, the United Arab Emirates, a model Persian Gulf petrostate where endless billions from crude oil exports feed a giant sovereign wealth fund, isn't the most obvious customer for Texan oil. Yet, in a trade that illustrates how the rise of American shale industry is upending energy markets across the globe, the UAE bought oil directly from the United States in December, according to data from the federal government. A tanker sailed from Houston and arrived in the Persian Gulf last month. The cargo of the American condensate, a type of very light crude oil, was preferred to regional grades because its superior quality made it more suitable for the UAE's processing plants. A person with knowledge of that matter had said, asking not to be identified, discussing a commercially sensitive matter, of course, right? As a member of OPEC and a large crude producer, I would imagine they would be very self-sufficient in their own crude supply, said Andy Lipow, president of Lipow Oil Associates, LLC. The purchases of U.S. oil aren't likely to continue given the UAE's own supply. The end of a ban on U.S. exports in 2015, coupled with the explosive growth of shale production, has changed the flow of petroleum around the world. Shipments from U.S. ports have increased from a little more than 100,000 barrels a day in 2013 to 1.5 million in November, traveling as far as China and the UK. So the U.S. has exported about 700,000 barrels of light domestic crude in December to the UAE. That's what the Census Bureau reported. While Energy Information Administration data show its fourth largest OPEC produces first cargo of U.S. oil, ADNOC said in July it purchased condensate from the U.S. for September delivery. Although it exports more than 2 million barrels a day, the Middle Eastern country typically imports extra light condensate to process in a unit known as a splitter, okay? So we have a different grade of oil over here than they have over there, and apparently the oil we have here is a little bit better. I'm going to touch a little bit on government here because there was a little bit of a problem going on in Florida. Apparently, a city inspector had ordered some military flags removed from a car dealership. Okay, a Florida city inspector has been suspended from her position, which is a good thing, after she ordered a local Jacksonville car dealership to remove all its military flags that are proudly displayed on the top of the business. She also insulted a local veteran while she issued the citation. "You did nothing for this country," a Jacksonville city inspector told a military veteran when she entered the Jaguar Power Sports dealership on Monday, to issue a warning citation over the display of the dealership's military flags. Melinda Power, the city inspector, ordered the Cedar Hills Estate dealership to remove its military flags display, stating they were a violation of city code. Jaguar Power Sports posted a video to Facebook about the incident and the citation the business received. The video has gone viral with more than 9 million views on Wednesday morning. We got a ticket in the city of Jacksonville for flying military flags. They cited us for every flag because they were mad we had flags up on top of the building. The man who identifies himself as Sean says in the video, they're citing us for flying military flags in a military town. He also calls out Power and the incident she created in the store with a military veteran customer. Power and her supervisor have since been suspended. Power was ordered to remove the flags, was troubling to a patron who was a military veteran. Store employees told Power to leave the business after she verbally attacked the veteran. Power said to the vet, "What did you do for this country?" He says, "I took 3 bullets to the leg. I almost lost my life for this country. I'm retired. I'm a veteran." She gets in his face and says, "You did nothing for this country," store employee Katie Klass said. "We cater to our men and women, both retired and active military, so it was personal. We felt like it was a personal attack. The way she handled the situation was terrible," the store manager said, Marcy Moyer. According to the managers of the dealership, the flags will remain where they are and will not be removed. The news of the incident made its way to the mayor's office, and Mayor Lenny Curry issued in a statement, "I have directed city staff that military flags should be treated the same as U.S. flags," he tweeted. "Let them fly. I've reached out to the business owner and will review employee procedures. COJ employees are expected to be respectful of our customers, you, the people of Jacksonville." And also a statement says, "We're disturbed by some of the claims made by a city employee and are reviewing the facts. We are also reviewing the current ordinances regarding flags and signs to ensure accurate information was shared. The business was issued a warning and was not fined. Warnings are issued to provide property owners information about a possible violation and corrective action. I've contacted the dealership and provided the owner with the mayor's contact information for them to discuss directly. Mayor Curry and his administration respect and appreciate those in uniform who have served and continue to serve our country and our community." So, what is it about the guns? Okay? I don't get it. People are falling apart. People are really falling apart. There was a woman arrested after assaulting a pregnant service mother in a restaurant. Okay? A 71-year-old Georgia woman has been arrested after a video of her assaulting a pregnant U.S. service member and a second U.S. service member over a parking spot at a restaurant. Judy Tucker was charged with 1 count of battery after lunging at the 2 U.S. service members at Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen in Macon, Georgia on Saturday. Tucker can be heard saying in the video that the 2 women, 34-year-old Stephanie Mitchell and 27-year-old Treasure Sharp, got in her way while they were trying to park in a handicap spot at the restaurant. Witnesses said Tucker's son followed the 2 women into the restaurant and called them gay black bitches. Gotta like that, huh? Tucker then tried to block Sharp from letting her record the incident. "Don't you take a picture of me," Tucker can be heard saying in the video. "You don't have the right to take a picture of me." Sharp was hit in the face and told Tucker that she was pregnant. "I'm pregnant. Look at me. I'm pregnant," she said in the video. "You're pushing a pregnant lady." You know how it goes. But anyway, Tucker was taken to Bibb County Jail where she was released on a $650 bond. "We were appalled by the behavior of the individuals who confronted the 2 female service members. Such behavior flies in the face of our values, and those individuals are no longer welcome in our restaurant," the restaurant said in a statement. Okay? So check this out. A 71-year-old Georgia woman attacks 2 veteran women. One of them's pregnant, okay? She got the bad end of the stick. Let me guess, 71. She's got grandchildren that either eat Tide Pods or snort rubbers, right? This has got to, come on, these people. I don't get it. I really don't get it. So, Comey, the whole bunch of them. We've got a whole list of things going on here in the Congress. This was submitted by Zero Hedge. I uploaded to Scribd by Zero Hedge. Comey, Clinton, Lynch, McCabe, Page, and Strzok referred for criminal investigation. On former Actually, it says here, Dear Attorney General Sessions, Director Wray, and Mr. Huber, we write to refer the following individuals for investigation of potential violations of federal statutes. In doing so, we're especially mindful of the dissimilar degrees of zealousness that has marked the investigation into former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and the presidential campaign of Donald Trump, respectively. Because we believe that those in positions of high authority should be treated the same as every other American, we want to be sure that the potential violations of law outlined below are vetted appropriately. Number 1. Former FBI Director James Comey. On July 5th, Comey made a mistake. July 5th, 2016, Comey made a statement on the investigation of Secretary Clinton's use of personal email system, during which he stated there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. He went on to say, although there was evidence of potential violations of the status regarding the handling of the classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. Incredibly, this statement appears to have been made prior to the interviewing Secretary Clinton and as many as 17 key witnesses, including Clinton's closest aides. Comey's decisions not to seek charges against Clinton's misconduct suggest improper investigative conduct, potentially motivated by a political agenda. Accordingly, we refer James Comey to DOJ for potential violations of 18 U.S.C. 1505 and 1515b. According to his handling of the Clinton investigation, Comey engaged in questionable conduct vis-a-vis President Donald Trump. As reported by the New York Times, Dr. Comey wrote memoranda detailing alleged conversations between himself and President Trump, creating a paper trail for documenting what he perceived as the president's improper efforts to influence the continuing investigation. The article reports that Comey created similar memos, including some that are classified, about every phone call and meeting he had with the president. As detailed in January 3rd, 2018, a letter to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein from Honorable Charles E. Grassley, chairman of the Senate Committee on the Judiciary. Committee staff reviewed the memoranda created by former Director Comey in a sensitive compartmented information facility. Due to the classified nature of the majority of the memos, the 7 memos, 4 were marked classified at the secret or confidential levels. Anyway, they've got Comey. Comey, again, there are several charges. He's going to be, again, 18 U.S.C. 1621 and 18 U.S.C. 1001. And then former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, a lawyer representing Clinton campaign, and the Democratic National Committee paid Washington firm Fusion GPS to conduct research that led to the Steele dossier, according to an October 24, 2017 report in the Washington Post. Accordingly, for disguising payments to Fusion GPS on mandatory disclosures to the Federal Elections Commissions, we refer Hillary Clinton to DOJ for potential violations of 52 U.S.C. 30121 and 52 U.S.C. 30101. Former Attorney General Lynch, with regard to former Attorney General Lynch, we raised concerns regarding her decision to threaten with reprisal from former FBI informant who tried to come forward in 2016 with insight into the Uranium One deal. Accordingly, we refer Loretta Lynch to DOJ for potential violations of 18 U.S.C. 1505 and 1515b. Former Acting Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, with regard to former Acting Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, as reported by the New York Times, Attorney General Jeff Sessions had said that during the internal Hillary Clinton investigation, McCabe lacked candor, including under oath, on multiple occasions. He went on to say that this is a fireable offense, and Mr. Sessions said that career apolitical employees at the FBI and Justice Department agreed that Mr. McCabe should be fired. Furthermore, the DOJ Office of the Inspector General recently released a February 2018 misconduct report titled A Report of Investigation of Certain Allegations Relating to former FBI Director Andrew McCabe, confirming 4 instances of McCabe's lack of candor, including 3 instances under oath, as well as the conclusion that McCabe's decision to confirm the existence of the Clinton Foundation investigation through an anonymously sourced quote violated the FBI and DOJ's media policy and constituted misconduct. Accordingly, we refer Andrew McCabe for potential violations of 18 U.S.C. 1001, 18 U.S.C. 1621 and 18 U.S.C. 1505. FBI agent Peter Strzok and FBI counsel Lisa Page. With regard to top counterintelligence FBI agent Peter Strzok and senior FBI lawyer Lisa Page, we raised concerns regarding their interference in the Hillary Clinton investigation regarding her use of a personal email server. Anyway, that one comes down. Potential violations of 18 U.S.C. 1505 and 1515b. And the Department of Justice and FBI personnel connected to the compilation of the documents on alleged links between Russia and then presidential candidate Donald Trump, known as the Steele dossier, including but not limited to former FBI Director James Comey, former acting director of the FBI Andrew McCabe, former acting Attorney General Sally Yates, and former acting Attorney General Dana Boente. Unbelievable. So they've got a whole bunch of stuff here. This is all signed by Congress members. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 signatures on here. And yeah, so this is basically we're going to go for some investigations here. It's about time. It's about time. According to another article here I get on the MiddleEastMonitor.com about Bashar al-Assad, Israel minister calls for assassination of him. Israel Housing Minister Yoav Gallant has called for Syrian regime President Bashar al-Assad to be assassinated, Sky News reported. Israeli media reported that al-Assad has left his presidential palace yesterday morning, accompanied by a Russian military convoy, for fear of an American strike. Reports Russia has denied. In preparation for a possible U.S.-led strike on Syria, Russia Federal Air Transport Agency yesterday recommended all Russia flights exercise caution while traveling through the eastern Mediterranean region. Rosavietsia, which is the name of the company, has sent telegrams to air transport companies notifying them to give special attention to planning flights in the eastern Mediterranean region and to the importance of notifications provided by the Avion Authority to alert pilots to hazards on a flight course, a source at the Russian organization told TASS news agency. The International Air Traffic Control Agency, Eurocontrol, has also warned flights traveling over the eastern Mediterranean to exercise extra caution due to possible strikes over the next 72 hours that could interrupt radio navigation systems. Most flights have avoided the area since the start of the conflict, although Syrian Air and Lebanon's Middle East Airlines continue to use Syrian airspace. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and, I don't know, take him out, right? Wasn't it President Obama who had the kill list, right? Yeah, I think it was. Anyway, at Zero Hedge, Comey calls McCabe a liar. McCabe's attorney decides to fire back. There's a massive battle is brewing between former FBI Director James Comey and his deputy Andy McCabe. It was first noted a few weeks ago by the Daily Caller's Chuck Ross over exactly who was lying about Comey's knowing that McCabe had been leaking self-serving information to the Wall Street Journal. Comey stopped by ABC's The View to peddle his new book, A Higher Loyalty, where he called his former deputy Andrew McCabe a liar and admitted that he ordered the report, which found McCabe guilty of leaking to the press and then lying under oath about it several times. Comey was asked by host Meghan McCain how he thought the public was supposed to have confidence in the FBI amid revelations that McCabe lied about the leak. It's not okay. The McCabe case illustrates what an organization committed to the truth looks like, Comey said. I ordered that investigation. Comey then appeared to try and frame McCabe as a good person despite all the lying. Here, listen to this guy. Good people lie. I think I'm a good person, where I have lied, Comey said. I still believe Andrew McCabe is a good person, but the Inspector General found he lied. noting that there are severe consequences within the DOJ for doing so. Well, of course. Why do people lie? People lie because they're backed into a corner and they've got no way out. Okay? Or they're covering for someone else. They're covering something up, either for themselves or for someone else. Okay? There is never a good time to lie. And yeah, you're going to say, oh, Papa, oh, yeah, no, you're wrong. And you know what? Here's the example, okay? You're talking with a woman. She sends you a picture. She asks you, am I pretty? Okay? What do you tell her? Do you look at the picture and say, yep, you're pretty? If she's not, pretty is subjective. Okay, remember? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So, you know, that's just the way that is. So when it comes to lying, don't. You always get caught. I have always gotten caught in never. It's never good. It's never a good thing. Don't do it. Anyway, I'm going to say this one more time, just to make sure that I've got it out here and that everybody understands. We are on TalkStream Live. So if you miss a broadcast, it will be replayed 12 hours after the live airing time on the L&M Radio Network. We also archive our shows, which you can access and listen to. These shows you'll find on the YouTube channel, if you're not there already. It's called What's Out There. Okay? If you like what I do, please like, share, and subscribe. Okay? If you would like to support what I do, donations can be sent. There's a link underneath the video here if you're on YouTube. But it's abcleaningmaine@gmail.com at PayPal. I would be honored to have you as a follower and a subscriber. Please like this video, subscribe and follow. It doesn't cost you a penny. If you'd like to donate to the network, we are 100% listener supported. And you can do that by going to lnmradionetwork.com or latenightinthemidlands.com and clicking on the donate button or the subscribe button. With a subscription, you get 10 years of archives. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. There was something else. Oh, yes. One more thing. Catch us Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. until noon Eastern Time, latenightinthemidlands.com, lnmradionetwork.com. Also at, I'm drawing blanks. Believe me, I'm not polished, okay? lnmradionetwork.com, latenightinthemidlands.com, the Paranormal Radio app, also WCET 101.7 FM, Columbia Talk. That, my friends, is what's out there.
Well, we need to know a couple of things. Number one, we need to know how the world's premier law enforcement agency managed to lose 5 months worth of text. And what's also troubling is in the text we do have, they're discussing how to avoid text being captured and secured. So what's missing is important, but also what's there is important. It is manifest bias, not just against Trump, but against his kids, against his business interests. There's a text where they hope the Trump hotel fails. That is a level of bias that you rarely see and you never see from law enforcement officers. What's also troubling to me is this text that Johnny Ratcliffe found last night about this secret society. Now, I have no clue what that means because that was not the phraseology I used, but it's the day after the election, and it's the same two people that were discussing a little bit later in the text the damage they had done with the Clinton investigation and how they could, quote, fix it and make it right.
What's out there?